And when he swings at you, you gotta teach him the art of counterpunching.
Like you duck it and then you hit him with the uppercut, and you're just like, next time keep your hand up. Next time keep your hand up.
The Three RoOs podcast.
All right, welcome to the Three RoOs podcast. Today we've got just the three of us. We're doing a little letting it rip, shooting the shit episode. So have a listen. Here we go.
Boom.
I feel like personally, college is a very important time, not just for growing knowledge, but also for growing experience as an adult.
It's a social experiment,
right?
Yeah.
in so many ways. It's a paid social experiment.
I think it's fucking pointless for like furthering your career at this point. Not pointless, but like it's not worth the fucking money at this point unless you're going to like a community college and or you're getting a career where you can pay back your student loans kind of quick. But it's just fucking a scam at this point. I mean, think the social aspect is worth it.
Yeah, the social aspect's worth it. There are certain things that you have to learn. Like there are certain things you're not going to learn. Right.
But you could learn it. You could learn it on the job training. You could learn most things on the job.
Depending on the job, like you want your doctor to do some school.
I will never forget
your surgeon.
I will never forget my senior year of undergrad. I went to a conference and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. I thought I was going to get a job with just a bachelor's degree. And so I'm going around to booths and talking to people and like, basically doing networking. And one person told me, they were like, I'm going to tell you right now, you went to college to learn to talk the language. Like anything you're going to learn how to do, you're going to learn at the job. No one is going to teach you in college how to do the actual job. You went to school to talk the language. So I could look at you and say, in my case, clean this Erlenmeyer flask. And you would know what an Erlenmeyer flask is, right? But like no one in school is going to teach you how to, neutralize this compound because we make this compound. The school doesn't make it, so I have to teach you how to do it anyway. So
right.
Yeah, it probably depends on your vocation. I think for business, it's like, business is the art of politics in a lot of ways, unfortunately. But I do think like marketing and stuff like that, like it gives you a good foundation to where like if a kid's coming to you and he already knows the basics, you're like, okay, I can kind of get you up to speed more quickly, but you could learn a lot of that stuff on the job 100%.
Yeah, I say you could not tell me a 4 years on the job training, you couldn't be further ahead.
Oh my God, 100%. Give me like 3 or 4, 6 months of like business basics, like accounting. And I can't tell you last time I did any of that shit. Really, it's just like the basics of marketing. Give me 6 months of basic marketing, then get me into the job force, the workforce. But I think again, like engineers, right? You probably want like somebody building bridges. You don't think you want them to have like some basics?
You learn about. No one's gonna take an 18-year-old and say design this bridge, right?
Well,
there are
fair.
people who have been doing it for 20 years who have designed the
yeah.
bridge and are teaching the 18-year-old.
That's
What
true.
the 18-year-old will benefit from is he jumps in. It's that idea of like you get a 22-year-old that you don't have to spend a year teaching him the lingo and teaching them the basics. Like that's the idea behind it. But Tyler's right. Like if college were meant for everybody, there wouldn't be apprenticeship programs. Electricians don't go to college, and I sure as shit couldn't do electrical shit. They learn it all on the job. So
I feel like 4 years in an engineering firm just shadowing someone will get you 1,000 times further than
fair enough. Yeah, that's
I think I think the idea behind it is you get someone who's got the 4 years at least, they have some of the basics that you wouldn't need to spend the time and energy and money teaching them.
Dude, have you ever, it's going to seem a little off topic, but like John Wayne had a movie. Did I just get this canceled because I said John Wayne? He had like, it was like his first movie.
Now I'm doubly confused.
Yeah, at first I was confused where this was going, but now I'm wondering why we get canceled.
Because people hate John Wayne because he like, he was born in like 1907, so he said some racist stuff. But he was born a long time ago. Not that that was right, but still. But anyway, so John Wayne had a movie, his first movie. In the movie, like not long in, this one guy goes, "What's good for the banks is good for the country." Right? And you're like, holy, like all of a sudden your third eye like opens up and you're like all the debt that you're accruing, like, you know what I mean? Student loans, your mortgage. And dude, I looked at the breakdown of my mortgage, by the way. I'm paying more in interest over 30 years than I am for the actual house.
Well, that's because
Yeah.
you took out a 30-year mortgage.
No, I know, but it's like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? I got to pay you like all that money plus like 50% more than
Bro,
you're giving me.
bro, I'm waiting for it to become more of a scam and 40-year mortgage to become popular and 50-year mortgage to become popular
This
because
is what, so this is the thing too. You got to remember the same thing-ish happened in the 30s where banks was giving everybody money and then all of a sudden people said they couldn't pay it back and the Great Depression happened, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's what the Great Depression is. Now there's protections against that. But it's still at the point where if you need money, a bank is going to give you money, but they're certainly not going to be like, you know what? You don't have a job, you're a deadbeat, you sell pot on the side. I'm going to give you money and not charge you extra. I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
trust you.
Yeah, no, I get that, but it's like when the guy said what's good for the banks is good for the country. When we go back to like, I mean, that's through college. Is I think to your it's like again certain vocations. So I want my surgeon to have schooling. I don't need him to learn about plant biology. I don't need him to learn about organic chemistry, right? Maybe anatomy, maybe things that actually have to do with like that kind of stuff that he's doing every day. So you want some school, but like when you look at everyone now, it's like you grow up, get into a good college. College now is I mean, what's Hofstra now? Like $60,000 a year.
I mean, Syracuse is over 75, I think.
What's good for the
what the
banks is good for the
fuck?
country, right? It's like
Yeah.
all these people accruing debt, paying 5%, 6% a year on some of their student loans. Like that's what I think college is just
Well,
like
if that's a big
really
on
good
government.
for.
If you got private loans, you're paying upwards of 10, 11%. I mean, it's disgusting.
Ridiculous, dude. She's still paying off loans from she went to one semester. She's still paying off some loans.
I
That's
mean,
crazy.
it's sad because the question has to be asked, what does $75,000 a year at Syracuse University get you that $35,000 a year at, Joe Schmo State College doesn't get you?
Or $5,000 a year at local community college for the first 2 years.
Thank you. Now that I
Well,
work at one
yeah.
of those, you absolutely should get as much done at it, especially if you don't know. Here's the other thing. Do you know how many kids at 18-year-old actually know what they want to do with their life? Not many.
Not
I
So
mean,
me.
I was pre-med.
why
Yeah, I
not
switched
take
my
two
major
years
twice.
and knock out every prereq you can and then
Yeah.
go to your state school where everything will transfer
Yeah.
and
Well,
you're paying.
You know,
because when you're young, you're
You
worried
want to
about
get
what
away
other
from
people. You
home, you
want to
want
get
to
away from
go
home. You're
cool
worried about what other people have to
places.
say, and you want to say you're
Yeah.
going to this college. The only
Yeah.
thing I would say is, like, if you're gonna, why go to Harvard over another school, right? I think, I mean, forget Harvard, but like other schools, it's because the network. Like, you pay for your network, but then after you get your first job, no one's ever talked to
No
me
one
about
cares.
where I went to school. No one
No
gave a
one has
fuck.
ever asked me where I've gotten my degree. No one has ever asked
People
me that.
barely gave a shit, by the way, that I went to Hofstra Business School when I was like interviewing. They're like, you know what, kid, you got spunk. I like you.
if
Let's give you a
if
shot.
if your interpersonal skills are like on point, I don't think it
Yeah,
fucking matters where you went to school as long as you have that piece of
No,
paper.
correct.
yeah, man.
Like
Correct.
if you can convince someone in an interview to hire you, that's all that really fucking matters.
Sell yourself, man. Sell yourself.
I remember walking into this Wall Street bond trading company. They gave you like the whole pitch. I guarantee you'll make your first $1 million in your first 3 years,
I
like the
mean,
whole bullshit, right? But they're like, you got to meet a partner and this and that. I was like, no, get the part. I had so much confidence. I'm like, get the partner in here today because I can start making money on Monday somewhere else. Fucking line the job up. I didn't know the first thing about trading bonds. I still don't know. I just knew I did a bunch of cocaine. Trade it like and call people all day.
you're living the real life Wolf of Wall Street. It's fine.
Yeah, and they definitely
The
did
movie was
cocaine.
actually
They were working
about
like
Bridge.
20 hours,
Um,
20 hours a day.
I mean, look, I can't sit here and say like college should be free because look at the numbers. It shouldn't.
Yeah, we got to pay people too,
It
and
costs
yeah,
money to run a university.
yeah.
But
Make sure the
again, I
buildings don't
ask
cave
you,
in.
why does this college cost $80,000 a year? This one only costs 30, and you're getting the same exact education. It makes
Same
no
books half the
sense.
time. Yeah,
It's a
So
business.
yeah. Well, dude, would you look at what's happening on some of these college campuses too right now? Like the most prestigious schools in the country, and you're like, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yeah. Dude, I,
Right?
I I swear if a man and I have kids, I'm homeschooling them. I'm not even gonna fucking play. I'm not even playing games. I will do everything in my power to homeschool
yeah,
them.
but the tough side of that is like socialization aspect, even when they're younger, right? Like you've got to socialize your kids.
You can put them in sports and local programs. Like
Dude,
they'll get their socialization.
when I was living in California, I had a roommate that was homeschooled. She worked with somebody who was also homeschooled, and they had a blowout argument over this. like in the living room one night, and I'm just like literally standing in the doorway, just like listening. And the one kid was like, "I was socialized and I did sports and this and that." And she was like, "No, I didn't meet my first boy till I was 16. I didn't know how to act, and I still don't have a boyfriend because like I like don't know how to act." Like oh they went at it for like 3 hours, and that guy lived in it out of his car because he would like go shower at a gym in the morning because he just wanted to save a bunch of money, which kind of smart. Sacrifice for a little bit, yeah, sacrifice for a little bit, and you're good. You're also in LA, so it was expensive. But I think anyway, yeah, I've seen this argument, and I still don't know which side
I
is
mean, I
like
think
better.
that, and again, this is coming more from the nerdy science watching day, like a child's brain development, like social cues are a thing, and you don't learn social cues if you don't see people every single day. And yes, sports can give you that, but like, what about the structure of a classroom? Like, what about the things you're going to learn that other kids don't, or that you're not going to learn that other kids do? And you're always going to be that kid who doesn't experience what everybody else got to experience in school, so now you're left out on that side of things. Like,
You know who I trust to teach my kids the right thing is me. Like
I
do I
mean,
want them learning stupid shit they're never going to use
yeah.
after senior year of high school, or do I want them learning about financial shit that they're never going to learn anywhere in school that is going to be the most important thing after they graduate?
Well, some of the things like we talked about this recently, right? Like that my sister, so my niece, that they're teaching her in school now. And we won't really go down the rabbit hole, but it's like, well, why are you teaching these kids these things? Like, teach the kid about like life, like teach the kid how to be an adult. Teach the kid how to
or
think outside the box. Don't
or
teach the kid about
like
politics and
we turned out okay. Why not just teach what they've been teaching for many years
that's
before?
well,
Teach
yeah,
your
that's
addition
true.
and subtraction and
Yeah,
where
Yeah, but
things are on a map and how to read a map and what's north, south, east, and like I don't understand why we need to just go I, extremes on both ways. Why do we need to
yeah.
stop? It's worked for so many years. Why stop? Why
has
change
it
it?
has it worked? We've fallen behind many other countries in our educational system. I don't know. I don't know that it has worked. We're no
That's
longer
a
innovating like we used to. The system
good
is
point.
broken.
I mean,
I don't.
I think Silicon Valley is still doing pretty okay for itself.
What do you mean?
Like if you're saying we're not innovating like we like enough still comes out of Silicon Valley where we're still surviving. Like I get it, we're not China. I understand that, but like
We're not China. We're not Japan. We're not like 10 other countries in the
yeah,
world.
but we're using all their shit anyway, so what's the matter?
And if Silicon Valley is your measure, I mean, come on, bro. Like, there's so much shit wrong with Silicon Valley.
But
I
yeah,
think
but that
it's
has nothing to do with the actual that's more the build of uh entrepreneurship more than anything. That's a whole fucked region in of its own right. Like
is
that's
it do you think it's a cultural thing more than just a schooling? Like there's things in schools today where I'm like, I just don't really understand like why you're teaching kids this and not that. But I think like culturally it might be the issue too, right? Like our kids can, if you look at a kid from Japan or China or other parts of the world, the level of discipline those kids have, you're like, holy shit! Like those, they are dialed in.
yeah, but
And
also they don't have a life when they're like you have to still have a life too.
no,
Like
you do, but I feel like
That's an
kids.
American belief. I feel like that's something that you didn't believe for the
I
longest time.
mean, might be an American belief, but here we are at 9:30 on a Tuesday evening shooting the shit and having fun instead of getting whipped because we're not in bed studying the next day's tests. Like
Think how much further
I
ahead we'd
get
be
it.
if we were getting
I get
whipped.
it. I'm
Seth,
not super innovative,
Seth,
but I'm
that's a
having a good
belief.
time.
That's a belief we've had in this country since like 1960. But prior to that, you know what we did? We fucking woke up, we worked, and then we went to sleep. And like that was life up until recently and in
I
America.
mean, I
And
get
now
it, but here's the thing. I go back to like I I'm content with my life. Again, I'm not sad that I'm not this upper echelon dude who's doing X, Y, and Z and innovative in front of 15 other people. Like I'm happy with my life. I'm happy I have the freedom to clock the fuck out and go home and do normal things and stare at a screen and watch dudes hit each other playing football. Like I'm happy that
Yeah,
have
but
the ability to do that.
I think but when push comes to shove, like you can dial in, and I think our generation, I'm not going to, every generation says about the next generation, but if you look at these kids today, like their attention spans, even millennials, by the way, attention spans super low, right? How do you fit an advertisement into 5 seconds? Because after that, everyone's like click, 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 click on the skip ad. Like attention spans are lower, physical fitness is lower. Like there's, like
discipline.
diseases are discipline, yeah, and diseases are up. there's a lot of things that culturally I think it's like, that's probably why we're falling behind too. I'm not saying like, look, I don't think we have to be number one in mathematics and science and stuff like that, because at the end of the day it's like a lot of the stuff I learned when we were much better, not really using it today. But I still do think, to your point, like we need to be the country that innovates, or have a lot of innovators, and we do. To your point, Seth, we do. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like this younger generation just lacks a lot of things because our culture shifted so much, especially with social media
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
electronics and like,
I mean, you've got college majors that are influencer or whatever they're officially called, but that's what the
Do they
college
really
major
have that
is.
major?
You have
that's
there's a social
fucking
media major
ridiculous.
now, like there is.
Well,
But
So
again,
okay, well
this is
that's
but time out though. This is something that our country needs because every company uses a social media platform to
well, that's
pump out their
marketing
product,
versus
right?
influencer, though, right? That's not training you to become an influencer. I think that's more like marketing for companies.
social media marketing. That
Let's
that
be
might
realistic
that
though,
would
but
make
like
sense.
most people that do it are that you've got to imagine that most people that go to college today wanting to be a social media marketer want to become an influencer. They don't want to go work at
I got no
GE
clue.
and be on their Twitter, right? Like that's not what they want. That's
Yeah,
that's not their goal in life. Their goal in
yeah,
life is to be the next Kim Kardashian. Like
and they probably,
that's what they,
yeah, and
right.
they probably use that to
Like that's
promote
going to be a
themselves
harsh
too.
reality when it doesn't happen, but that's their goal in life.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have no
So
clue. I haven't taken a poll on people in the social media marketing world, so I don't know if that's really their goal. I don't
Well,
know.
that it
I
is
just
it is
I
a
just
it
think
is a
that
thing.
again, I just think that like the extreme goes both ways. Like in a way, I know Rich, you're like, why are we teaching about politics? Because that's technically our world. Like we learned about politics when we were younger. We just when we were younger, politics was Democrats and Republicans, and this candidate in the debate was this Republican, and this was a Democrat. Like that's what it was in
But I learned about it.
1995,
But see, I learned
right?
about it like, hey, like George Washington was this and this guy was that. Like I didn't learn about, hey, you should think this way. We had one teacher.
See,
I
that's
remember
where
it.
I'm going with it is like that's the problem is why you should not tell kids how they should. Now, granted, you should be teaching children what is right and what is wrong. That is
Mm,
entirely possible, but it still has to be fact based, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
can't say this and if that is happening in a school system, absolutely a parent should be raising their hands.
yeah,
I don't like seeing where parents complain that they want to control what their children learn because they don't like that their teacher taught them that Donald Trump lost in 2020. Like that's wrong. He did lose in 2020.
yeah.
So
It's
the kids
factual.
need to learn that. That's a
Yeah,
fact. It happened.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
because you don't like that doesn't mean you're going to overthrow the curriculum. Like
yeah.
that's
Because
wrong.
that's also like, well, let's not teach the kids about like the 1930s. Like
Thank
it
you.
happened. It's a fact.
It
I get
happened.
that.
It's a thing.
Like when I was growing up, we had one teacher, and I remember it very vividly because like this was like, whoa, did he just say that? But he was like a guy who was a draft dodger in Vietnam, and he had a lot of shit to say about George Bush, right? Which I feel like that's when people started to get a lot more like outspoken about just politics. Was kind of like during that administration of the Iraq War. But like you're like, whoa, why is he telling us like kind of like shitting on the president right now? Like he's not supposed to do that. And now like some of the stuff my sister tells me about like my niece, and they're like, well, you can have your kids sit in this class, or you can have your kids sit out of this class. We're gonna start teaching these things at 7 or 8 years old. We're gonna start teaching the kids about that. And you're like, wait, what are your plans around like fucking like division and like, you know what I mean, and like actual academia?
I, I just
I
think
mean, it still happens. It's still
Well, it
you're
happens,
not
but
gonna
it's
go
like
through school and not learn basic math functions. Like it's gonna happen. I think it's the scope of certain subjects has changed.
scope of
And
subjects has changed. Also, like the amount of like, dude, I want my kid to be proficient in certain like in these things. Use your time. You have my kid from 7:30 to two
which
thirty.
they still again, that's what um standardized testing does. The testing that's not
Yeah,
necessarily graded by the students, but then there's supposed to be a
yeah.
governing body that looks at it and goes, okay, we're
Which
struggling with X. I look back to the LeBron Promise School, which was like, let's get all these inner city kids into school and teach them everything. And they haven't passed a math test in 5 years. Like, why is that not raising more red flags?
Yeah. Well, did you see? So the ACT test, the scores are the lowest that they've been in 30 years.
Well, the problem with that is, and I went on a rant about this yesterday because they just came out with some statistics on parental income and the SATs, is
This morning I saw that.
eh, okay, first of all, duh. rich kids are going to do better on the SAT.
Yeah, that's exactly
because their parents
what
are
I
going to pay
said.
for them to go to courses, and they're going
That's
to pay
exactly
for
what
you
I
to
said.
take the SAT more times. And poor kids' parents are not going to pay for shit, let alone the actual
Yeah.
test. I don't even know what it costs to take the SAT right
Yeah,
now.
of course you're gonna have access to
Um,
tutors and stuff. Yeah.
exactly. So, duh. Second of all, it should be a benchmark, but it should not be the benchmark, because students, especially in that age frame, all learn differently, and it all is based on each student. So yes, by all means, they still need to take that test, and by all means, you should still look at that test, but you should not benchmark a student based solely on that. Let's face it, when we went to college, we were lucky. We were at the tail end of the SAT benchmarking where we got into schools, but it still was like, you knew you had to do good on the SATs, right? Like,
A lot of stress on that. I mean, I think too, it's like instead of reporting on that, looking at the data on that, like what are the scores, what are the averages, how are kids doing better? Like, it's just like everything becomes this like class warfare, or it just every little thing becomes political. And again, like education should not be political; it should be factual, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, there are portions where they have to overlap. Again,
There are but again,
don't
it's
you don't learn
history.
about, right, but you also don't learn about the foundations of politics without learning about what each party is supposed to represent, right? And so you have to learn about the history of what has happened, and look, American history, probably all the way back dating 2001 at this point, has been kind of bleak, but we still have to learn about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, though, like, do you teach a kid about what a party's supposed to represent, or is that really just branding? There's been billions and billions of dollars of
I mean,
media dollars and all this
we
to.
teach what the Federalists used to, what their
So
foundation
again,
was.
yeah,
We
yeah,
taught,
keep it
I
like
mean,
that. Like, who was the party of slavery, and
so
who were
why
the
can't we?
abolitionists?
So why can't we
Most
teach what
kids
the
can't answer that
foundations of
today.
the current day
Right.
Republican and the current day Democrat were? Why can't we teach what those foundations were? Now,
Because a
what
lot
they
of that
used to
comes down to
be,
branding.
but what it used to be and what it currently is very, 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 very different. The current day, what people would depict a Republican as, is not what the Republican Party is supposed to be built on. And same with the Democrats. The
Yeah.
current day Democrat is not what it was depicted at when the Democrats and Republicans were made. So
But
it's a
teach the
fine
kids.
line.
But I guess teach the kids like about who voted on what bills, maybe what part, like teach the kids how to do the research. I think you've discussed this before too. Teach the kids how to do the research.
I mean,
Don't
it goes
teach the
back to when
kids
we
the
were in elementary
blurb
school, the note
that billions
cards,
of
right?
dollars have gone into for
Got to
branding.
do the note cards. Now, here's the issue I'm going to point in the time of, you're sitting here complaining about teaching and who's teaching and what they're teaching. You want better teachers? Stop paying them $30,000 a year to
Yeah,
do
that's
daycare for
true.
your
That's like one of the
parents.
most important
End of
jobs.
story.
Yeah, that's one of
End
the
of
most important
story.
jobs, and they
I
get paid
get
so
it. They're
little.
not saving lives and doing surgeries and doing groundbreaking research. Like, I get it. But they are sculpting your children. Stop paying them
Exactly.
$30,000 a year.
Exactly.
I'm sticking with my opinion, especially based on your last 5 minutes of conversation, that I think I would set my kid up for the best possible chance at success in the future if I taught them. I don't see.
So I do agree with you because I know what you would teach the kid.
I was
And
going to say you, yes, as a human being, but not the general public as home. Because you look at
Oh
who
no,
homeschools their kids right now.
again,
and
I'm
you're
not
going to
making that
say,
argument.
yeah,
I'm making the argument that I think I would teach them what I think would set them up for success,
Yeah,
and
how to be
I would
entrepreneurial and
socialize them how I felt appropriate,
correct.
and I would
Correct.
take Amanda's opinion into account, but I would probably do what I want anyways. But
Well, I mean, you're the man of the house, so naturally, what you say goes, right?
but my goal is that if we do have children, that by the time they're 5 or 6, that I have the free time to be able to do that.
Can I
Yeah.
teach them science at least?
Here,
You'll
yeah,
hire me?
but I'll sit in the background and I might mute you if any of the crazy chickens.
Yeah. When science stops being science.
You'll
I think
have me record my lessons and you'll edit them before you send them to your kid.
Yes, Seth, please send your lessons over and I'll review them before.
the biggest gripe I have with the education system though isn't the fact that things are becoming very political very quickly. And I think again, like when we talk about there's facts and then there's like branding and there's just like opinion, right? That's an issue. But I think the other thing is like it teaches you how to be a WT person.
Yep, that's my biggest issue. They teach
That's it.
They teach you nothing about finances. Nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Go to
that's
school, Do well in school, because if you do well in school, you'll be successful. Get into a good college, because the college you go to is gonna, you're gonna be very successful if you're an honor student, an AP student, and go to this college. Okay, rack up a bunch of debt, pay off that debt while you're also paying a car payment, a house, a mortgage. You're like a worker bee W-2 person until you're 65, 67, which by the time we get to that age, we might have to work longer than that if Social Security's not bankrupt. And then, it's like you're taught to be, whether it's overt or not, like you're basically taught to how to be a worker bee.
And
mean,
you
it's
have
the
to go
beginning
out
of
on
the
your own
it's
to not.
the
You have to
the
take
beginning
risks.
of the system. It's the
Yeah.
beginning of the system.
And it's terrible. So like when people are, like people talk about like the Matrix, um, it's true. Like there's a system that you're just a cog in the machine. And like, again, being now in my 30s, I'm like, wait, hang on. My life has so much more value than just being a fucking taxpayer. Like you're born, you're stamped with a fucking tax ID, which is your social security number. You're taught to just go be a worker bee and like work till you're 65, 67. So what? I'm supposed to work till my late 60s, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to go live my life?
Right. Right.
I'm fucking old.
Bro,
Like,
and by the time we're going to retire, it ain't gonna be our late 60s.
no way, man.
It's even
No,
if we
and
can retire.
exactly, right? Well, like think about it. If we have to support our parents, like with the how expensive things are now, like you're probably gonna have to pay for your parents and your own retirement.
Yeah.
Like,
And who do I want to train my children to be able to support me when I retire? This motherfucker. I don't want some other random kids doing it. Some other random people doing it.
Teach my kid tax code. Teach my kid how to fucking dodge taxes, start trust.
I think-
They would never
so I
do
think-
that though.
I think part of it, like you're right. There again, we've harped on this whole episode. We've harped on it before. Certain livelihoods need to be taught that aren't taught. I think part of the issue that Rich is bringing up of this bringing opinion into teaching is kind of our generation's fault, because our generation is this generation that feels that we need to impress our opinions and speak, and that's fine.
Yeah, you should
I
be
am
heard.
I am all about people having an opinion. I am all about people being their own person. I am all about all of that. But there's a time and a place. And when you are teaching, it needs to be a very,
Yeah.
non-biased fact. It's fact-based, right?
Sometimes you just gotta shut the fuck up.
But again,
I don't care what you think.
that's our generation. Like you know,
You were
I
coddled.
can't think of a single teacher until college when in college there's a little more flexibility, teachers, it's more of a free-flowing conversation, whatever. I can't think of a single elementary or high school teacher that I had that would tell me their opinion as a fact, or tell me their opinion was the way something had to go. I can never think of that happening. I can think of things look, we talk about Vietnam, and everybody has an opinion about Vietnam one way or another. We talked about World War II. Everybody's got an opinion about that. We even talked about 9/11 at that point, because when we were in high school, we were, well into the two wars, right? And we learned about it all, but I can never remember a teacher forcing an opinion on me.
Yeah, so I said the one time we were like, oh shit.
Is that a matter of you not understanding that it was opinion at that time? Like,
no, because I still know all the stuff that I was taught, right? Like if it was
well,
an
that's
opinion
impressive.
that was
I don't remember
ingrained
shit
on
that
me.
I was taught.
I couldn't necessarily like pinpoint, okay, on this day I learned X. But I feel like if a teacher was like, here's the way you need to feel about something, I would remember that. And I don't ever remember that happening about anything. Even when you learned about like human rights marches and like civil rights marches and whatnot, like you know that civil rights is an important thing, and you need to support civil rights, and you need to support women's rights, and slavery was bad, but like there was never this forced opinion of you need to feel this way. You were just taught what slavery was, and you were taught slavery ended. You were taught what segregation was, and you were taught that segregation ended, and you were taught what women's rights used to be, and you were taught what women's rights are today. No one ever sat here and said you need to advocate for this, and I think that's a big thing.
Or if you don't vote this way, that's all coming back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and I think part of it is, we might want to think about editing this out, or you can keep it in. Fuck it, I don't care. Is this idea that if you are, I don't remember the whole fucking term or whatever, but like it's not enough now to just not be racist. You have to like be actively anti-racist or something like that, right? Like if you're not actively going out and doing the marches and going out and speaking out against it, then you're like, that's wrong. That's wrong.
I think Rogan was talking about that the other day too.
That's wrong. He did. He had a guest on who talked about their kid. Can't remember who the guest was. I saw it on Twitter though. Their kid was in school and they were being taught that like it's not enough to just not be racist. Like you have to actively be going out. And Rogan was like, "This makes no sense." And that was one of the first times I was like, "Oh my god." He had a normal thought that I agree with. But
I
anyway,
agree with Joe Rogan. Damn it!
What is wrong with the world?
I think they're saying what they feel is necessary to like eradicate it. Which I think, yeah, we agree needs to be eradicated. I think you're right. Like to have to impress your opinion on everybody else, or to have to basically condemn somebody for not doing something that you think should be the way of, conducting your life. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's it's
like
that's
there's
such
a time and a place, and childhood education when you're molding someone's brain is not the time and place.
Yeah, and people are different. Some people are just. I mean, everyone is capable of very different things too. So holding people to like standards that you feel are necessary or what should be done is kind of unfair too. Like
you're
it's
also going to
so complicated.
You're at such a difficult point in a child's life that's where the radicalism is going to be formed, because
100%.
You're going to tell them an opinion and they're either going to 100% agree with it and go 100% that way, or they're not going to. They're not going to like what they hear and go, instead of just like sliding, they're going to go entirely the other direction, and then you get radical people on both sides.
Yeah. And when kids too know they can get a rise out of people, like when I was young, I was a troll. Like when you can get a rise out of people too, like
you're gonna
do it. Yeah, not as much as I used to though. I used to. There's like sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh man, you like really went out of your way to fucking get on.
Bro, you still trolled Seth all the time in the group chat.
Oh my god, every day.
If you want the natural COVID, the violent saliva, I got you. But no, but like I don't go out of like I used to troll people that I barely fucking knew, and that honestly,
I remember listening to you on Xbox Live. I remember listening to you just ravage 12-year-olds on Xbox Live.
Hey, I was probably on the defensive. I'm not gonna lie, because those little kids were fucking brutal. But I think.
Well, sorry, completely off topic. But Amanda and I were talking about getting a game system and like playing together on certain games. We don't know what yet, but if you guys are down to like get a game and play, like now's the time.
Get the Switch, bro. I have a Switch. Let's get a Switch.
I got a Switch.
Can you play online games together over Switch?
I think you
can. Yeah, but I will say like the Switch is not optimized for online play.
All right, what's the optimized system? Because
what do we want to play? Now is the time. I haven't.
I mean, I've got a gaming PC, so I'm one of those guys. But if I had to get a system, I probably would get if I had to get a console, I'd probably get a PS5. But that's like.
If I had to get a console, like
exactly.
PS5.
Oh, dude, you know what I bought?
The noobs out there would probably talk more about the Xbox.
I bought a PS2 recently.
You're missing my question. What should I buy that we can play together that I need to buy? And use that excuse like I'm buying it for me and Amanda.
I mean, but like the thing, like, so I know you say it's not optimized, Rich, but like that's like the party console is the Switch, right? Like it's got the Mario Kart games.
Yeah,
and like,
depends on what you want to play, dude. If you want to play like Call of Duty and like shooters and stuff like that together, then you can't get a Switch. But if you want to play like Mario Party, Mario Kart, like stuff like
Super Smash Bros.
Then you could get a Switch. Stuff with Amanda probably would be, a Switch probably would be good too. Yeah. I don't even know how much those run these days, though. To be honest.
Either.
I literally haven't turned mine on in forever. I've been.
I derailed us. I did
get a PS2 though because I want to play like Vice City. I want to play like Ghost Recon 1, like all these old games. I'm like, because I never buy myself something. I'm like, what would make you kind of happy and like, what I'm like, what treat yourself? And then I'm like, let me get a fucking PlayStation 2, man.
So $300 is a Nintendo Switch right now.
How much is a PlayStation 5?
Like 600 probably.
Damn, really? That much money?
PlayStation came out and it was like $200.
Yeah, man. Back in the day, I remember using my Christmas money. Like I pooled like Christmas money, birthday money, a bunch of money up to get it, and yeah, it was legit.
Yep. $500 for a PS5.
Woof. Yeah,
unless you get the super deluxe version that's got 2.8 terabytes for $800.
There's some games on there that do seem really fun. I mean, dude, like during COVID, having the Xbox and like having a bunch of friends play Call of Duty together was like, I remember hanging out with kids from like high school that I haven't talked to for like 10 years or more. And all of a sudden it's like, yo, let's play some Call of Duty. And like every day we'd be dropping in. Like, yo, 5 o'clock, we're dropping in. That was such a crazy
team deathmatch, bro. Team deathmatch.
Dude, when you win one of those games, by the way, one of those battle royales, you feel like the highest high. Like your heart is pumping when you're like one of the last teams. your heart is fucking pumping. And when you lose, even if you come in second place, you feel so let down, like by yourself, maybe by your teammate. You're just like, man, this fucking kid, like you couldn't look to your right, or like you were supposed to do this. And it's just like your emotions run so high. And I've won back-to-backs. Felt like, oh God. But anyway, school and politics. I think well, homeschool. I see what I think. If we're going back to the whole like W-2 thing and all that, I think like school does kind of give you this track. Homeschooling, I do think is attractive, but I also agree with Seth. Like there's a social aspect to it that I think is very, you kind of take it for granted. But I think I don't know. I mean, her and I aren't sure if we want to have kids, and I don't know if we did have kids, like what route we would go. I mean, I probably would do.
I mean,
Honestly,
I think you just have
probably would
to. I
do.
think you honestly, I think part of it too, again, goes back to our generation. As much
Yeah.
as we're part of it, like our generation kind of is the big issue. Is our generation expects to send our kids to school and that's it, and they'll learn everything they need to learn, and that's not how it goes.
Yeah,
Like you still have to parent your child. You still have to be a parent.
that's
So
true.
yes, they go to school to learn arithmetic. They go to school to learn about history. But like you need to teach them why they're learning those things. You need to ask your children when they get home from school, what did you learn today? Like when I grew up, I was not allowed to say nothing when I was asked, what did you do at school today? What did you learn at school today? I was not allowed to say nothing. So like you need to interact with your children. You still need to be a parent. Like I think that's part of the problem is people expect, all right, kids at school, that's 8 hours a day. I don't have to worry about them. Okay, well maybe you find out what they're learning and then figure out what you need to help them with.
So I'm laughing because like you both know my grandma,
Oh yeah,
who's always like,
Richie,
got something to say. Yeah, she's every time I go see her, and I might know the answer, but I'm not. I don't want to. She's like, asking me questions about what my mom's doing, my sister's doing, who's doing this, and I just go, oh, I don't know. She fucking hates that. What was no one know nothing? None of you people know nothing. It's like you're not even a family. No one knows nothing. What do you not talk to each other? Like just like she goes off at the table if she hates that answer. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That gave me a chuckle. I think our generation though, we are very privileged, and like that's always seems like such a loaded term, but it's like and KJ says the other day, right? Because it's like we think we're gonna live 90 years. We think we're gonna, like, oh yeah, I'd like to go in my sleep. It's like, man, who the fuck are you to think you're just gonna just die in your sleep? Like the world's a bad place. You grew up in America in the 90s. You basically had everything you needed. You had a lot of what you wanted, and now you've got this entitlement, like, oh, I'm gonna live till my 90. I might die in my sleep. I'm gonna have a car and a house and this and that. The way we dream and the things we dream of, our ambitions are entirely different than a lot of other places in the world. But our generation had everything so fucking easy. And I think it kind of does go back to that saying, it's like tough men make good times, or tough people make good times make weak people make hard times. And then like, hard times make strong people. And it goes in that circle.
Yep.
But like our generation, I do think like, dude, we were coming off the tail end of the 80s and the 90s. Like things were good. We were the sole superpower. Like even the thought now where everyone's saying we're on the verge of World War III, and I hope they're wrong. But even like the idea that like our armies are invincible, that our military is the greatest, that we've got the biggest fleets and this kind of stuff. Like I don't even think like we take it for granted. Like you're like, oh, all our tax dollars go to the military. Like, yeah, because when shit hits the fan, you don't really have to fucking worry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, our arch nemesis has 2 aircraft carriers. We have 11.
Yeah, our tax dollars go to our military because our biggest enemy right now is dedicating their entire existence to beating us. Right?
To beating us, yeah. And like, you never had to worry about that because like we've had the biggest stick for so long. But like, it's going to get to the point where we're complacent. But like when we grow up and everything we had, like we are a very soft generation. And also too, like Seth, you were saying like, if you have opinion, you should be heard. And that was always too, like a lot of parents would be like, oh, like you have boundaries and this is your bedroom and you need to be let him speak. He has opinions on this. And it's like a 6-year-old like telling you like their view of the world. And you're just like, yeah, you're just regurgitating what your parents say. Shut the fuck up, kid. Like let the adults talk. But, and like, I was raised by children to be seen and not heard, like a very old school Italian view. But like, it's like our generation thinks that you could do that. And so like they raise kids that have what?
Sorry.
They raise kids. So now you see like college campuses where like people are like, they bring in a public speaker. The public speaker is saying something that these kids don't agree with and they're just screaming. They're just screaming and not letting him talk. They're trying to disrupt people. They're kind of acting a lot like the brown shirts and the black shirts acted back in the day, which is I think one of the greatest ironies, right? Is that they're supposed to be like anti-fascists and they act like brown shirts, but like it's almost like just a sense of entitlement to, and it's dangerous in this sense is there's that saying, right? Like, I won't agree with what you have to say, or I might not agree with what you have to say, but I will die defending that. And like, you have to have an exchange and a difference of opinions. And I do feel like this generation is almost so entitled that like you see that being shut down so much. And like, there's like the vocal minority, and there's like all these like weird eccentricities that I do think come off of just being a very entitled generation. And as we have more and more, you raise kids that are more and more entitled until finally you fuck everybody that's coming down the line. And finally, like at a certain point, everybody has to like, they have to do an about face and be like, shit, like now I've got to be like the tough people. I have to have a hard life because you guys ate cake for fucking 50 years. Fucked me over.
Do you think we've always been a society of people who feel like they know more than the person who's doing things, and it's just more prominent now?
Oh, 100%. Dude, the kid who graduates college thinks he should be the CEO within 6 months of the
Well, no, I
company,
don't even
right?
mean right now, but like take like 30 years ago, right? Like when our parents were our age. Do you think that there were people in our parents' generation who would
Mm.
sit on a Sunday and watch how many NFL games were on a Sunday and sit there and critique every team and be like, this is what you fucked up, and this is why you're not winning the Super Bowl, and this, that, and the other thing, and you should have made
Yeah.
this throw. Or we can go into it and say, this is what's happening in pop, but like you don't see it because no one's gonna send out a tweet about it, or no one's
Yeah,
going
now you
to
have like a
like a post
megaphone.
about it. Like I
Yeah.
just feel like this a lot of what is the problem is just exacerbated because it's that megaphone that is social media, right?
People
Like,
think
Yeah.
their opinions matter when they don't fucking matter.
well, and the big thing is it's really easy to say something when you can put it in 140 characters and you don't have to stand in front of someone and say it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
get fucking
That's
popped
what
in
it
the
comes
mouth.
down to,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. You speak
Yeah.
your mind in the 1960s, someone's gonna come over and fucking kick you in the teeth or something. You know?
Yeah, and his testosterone level is going to be
Bare
like
knuckle
3 times
boxing,
higher
man.
too.
Fuck that. It's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
shit. Go back to the beginnings of our country. Someone you said something to someone and they didn't like it. They challenged you to a fucking duel.
dude. Old
Like,
Americans were probably like the toughest sons of bitches in the world. Like we basically were like a nation of pirates. You know what I mean? Like those guys were crazy sons of bitches that were like tough as shit.
Even the early 1900s. Somebody was talking about this recently. That even in the early 1900s, I think of like our ancestors who came over here. Like they left shitty situations where they're getting fucked up in their home
Oh
countries,
yeah,
moved here to get better. And so if you said the wrong thing to them, they're gonna pop you in the mouth. You know, it's a completely
for
different
sure,
time.
man. Dude, that generation too, like my family coming over from Italy, like they left a bad situation. They left a beautiful country, but a bad situation. They came to like the tenements of New York City,
Yep.
right? And like they were dirt poor, and they just had to like, dude, my grandfather had like a truck that he would like sell vegetables out of, and like they did all these odd jobs. Like nobody had money. They ate pasta like almost every single day. Like meat was like a big deal. Like and but they like made it where this generation, like, dude, like my dad was a business owner, right? Like
Yeah.
my dad worked his ass off, became a business owner. My life was a lot easier because of that. I'm grateful for it. But then there's also, but nowadays too, people will think I'm a bad person because I was like, oh, you grew up that way. Not that I was like rich, but
I think we owe it to the next generation to not let them be that soft generation, that weak
for
generation.
sure, man. But how
like
can
it's this
you?
idea, but it's as simple as I worked for my dad when I was 13, 14 years old. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't
me
anything
too.
hard. I mopped floors, I checked in UPS orders. Like it wasn't anything super difficult, but I understood the importance of a job and
Yeah,
working hard at 14 years old. I understood that if you're on the clock, there's always something to be done. It's not just
yeah,
given to you. And I feel like at some point we've just kind of lost this sort of ebb and flow where like people feel like, oh, greatest country in the world. That means I should be, given things on a silver platter without you still have to work for it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it
kids
is the
think they're
greatest.
above shit
Yeah,
too.
it is the
Certain
greatest.
jobs.
It is the greatest country in the fucking. Well, that's the other thing is we are a country of titles and people feeling like they are
Yeah,
above
People
something.
baby the shit out of their kids.
for sure, dude. I was 14
Oh,
years old.
dude.
My dad opens up my bedroom door and goes, "You want money? Yeah. All right, go get your working papers. You're going to start working." And it was like 10 hours a day in the brutal cold or the blazing heat. People treated you like a piece of shit because you worked at a car wash. And in my area, they thought you literally were like a piece of shit because they were like a CEO or somebody in the city, right? Like there's entitled assholes. It was not a glorious job. It was a shitty job, but I had money in my pocket. And then one summer I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And they're like, well, you got to, not having a job was not an option, right? Like you're 15, you need to have a job. So my mom gets me a job where the boss treated me like such a piece of shit. Like I had not glorious jobs, but like I
Yeah, but
had jobs
everybody
and I had
has everybody.
responsibility.
It's like your
Well,
first car, right? Like
Yeah.
look at the kids
Oh my
whose
god, remember my
yeah,
first car? It died at the red light.
Silver Surfer. Remember the Firebird just dying in the hood
I
of
don't know what you're talking
Hempstead?
about. I don't know what you're
Except for
talking
that luck charm. That's two cars you've been in where they just died. I paid
Yo,
$1,500 for it, and I,
Seth's
Rich
the
motherfucker.
problem.
I am. I am. No,
dude, I
rich
covered.
motherfucker came out on top that day.
I did, yeah. Well, first off, that car I bought it at 170,000 miles for like $1,500 cash. Okay, I got 7,000 miles out of it. I think, and then it died at a red light coming back from Philly from like the lacrosse tournament, the NCAA finals, and or semifinals, and no, it was the finals because it
It
was
was the
Memorial
final
Day.
day, yeah. Yeah.
And so we died, and I'm calling around everyone, all the tow companies, everyone's off, right? They're probably at barbecues. I finally reached this one guy. He goes, I will take that car. And, or he's like, I buy cars and I give them to the fire department and they like jaws of life them. And I'm like, you know what? You take the car for free. I'm not like, here's the deal. I'm not going to pay for the tow. You come get this car for free. You take the car, you do your thing. You drop me off at like an Applebee's down the street. And then my dad and brother-in-law came and got us. So Seth and I end up it cost me nothing to lose this
No,
car.
you made money on it because he
Oh, he
literally
did pay me. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
So
He
what
did pay
happened?
me.
No. So what happened is that conversation happened in person. So the guy drives out, right? Because he's like,
Yeah.
and it's literally just this guy. He's not part of a company. There's no like insignia. It's just a dude who has a tow truck. And he looks at Rich and he's like, all right, it's gonna be like $200 or whatever to get you to, tow the car and get you where you need to be. And Rich was like, all right. And the guy goes, asks him a couple things about the car, and Rich goes, yeah, I mean, I'm probably just gonna get rid of it. Like it's died multiple times. And he goes, well, what about this? I buy cars. And that's when he did the Jaws of Life thing and ended up paying Rich like $500 for it. I was like, dude, you
Yeah,
just made
that's
like a
right. Yeah, yeah.
$700. Are you fucking kidding me right
I think, it was,
now?
I think it was three. That's where I'm getting the three from. Yeah, my dad comes and gets us. And I'm like, I was scot free. That was my first car, and I had
I just
rust
remember your
spots.
dad going like, where's the car? And he goes, I sold it. And he goes, good, that thing was a piece of shit.
I used to cover spots that didn't have paint or rust spots with magnets. So there were magnets that made no sense, like where they were. But I wasn't. I was that car got me from A to B. The struts were shot so it rocked like a boat.
The minute you turned it on, you were like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, oh, it was bad, dude. And then I got my dad's hand me down Ford Ranger, which was actually in good shape. But I remember the clutch burned out one day. I was coming back from the Jersey Shore, so it was like a gridlock on a Sunday, and the clutch just is like not catching. And I remember this one guy driving by and pointing at me and going ha 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 as he went by.
Because you're leaving the Jersey Shore, so of course there's gonna be a douche.
He was such an asshole. But I couldn't go below. I figured out I couldn't go below 30 miles an hour in like I could catch third gear, but I couldn't go below 30. Otherwise, I would stall out. So I literally did the most illegal thing. I just stayed in third gear and rode the shoulder for miles past the gridlock until I finally got to like an exit. And then by then, like my clutch plate and everything just kind of like cooled off, I guess, and I was able to like get it into the first gear and stuff like that. So highly illegal. So yeah, my history with cars. I mean, my car now is a 2013, and nothing special, but yeah, dude, that was a crazy. Anyway, yeah, responsibilities and all that. It's important to teach a kid that, but I do think our generation is extremely entitled in so many ways and privileged to think certain ways we do. And I do think that if you look at the next generation, and every generation says, but if you look at that generation, those kids they're weird, man. Like they're weird. And there's some kids that really stand out when you're like, oh shit, that kid like works hard, right? Then a lot of the kids you just see like doing like dancing on TikTok and like just doing like
Well,
weird
so
shit.
I think part of it too is like, and we can wrap this up because we've been going for a while. So anyway, I think part of it too is like everybody wants an answer for everything these days, and that ropes into childhood. So your kid's not doing well in school. Let's go get the ADHD diagnosis, or your kid misbehaves, let's go make sure he's got autism. And so it's developed this gentle parenting, which I read about, and is absolute bullshit, where you're not allowed to yell at your kid, and you're not allowed to tell your kid negative things, and you're supposed to explain what went wrong and ask them how they feel about it. And look, like, I get it, the days of whipping your child with a belt are done. Like, that's the truth, right? Like, the days of whipping your child are done.
If you're obvious about it, yes.
But you still got to tell your kids when something's wrong, and you still got to give them punishment when they do wrong things. Otherwise, they're not going to fucking learn, and they're going to end up feeling this entitledness and think that they can be a TikTok star at 12 years old.
They're going to learn in real life. If you don't teach them, at 6 years old, they're going to learn in real life when they're 26 years old, and it's going to be a rude awakening.
The problem is when they get that rude awakening at 26, what do? They come back to mom and dad, who are still going to gentle parent. It's okay. You can live in our basement.
Just handle it early.
Yeah. I had the opposite, maybe a little too far in the other direction sometimes. But I remember like, because I got cracked with a wooden spoon, I got the belt, I got the hand. I mean, I think I'm better for it, but in some ways. But I think I remember very vividly my mom one time she was chasing me around the back table with the wooden spoon, and she literally goes, "Stand still so I can hit you." It's like fucking hilarious. I think I stood still because I knew
stopped. You were like,
dude, I knew if I didn't stand still and just take my lickings, that number one, if she got a hold of me, it was gonna be a lot worse. But if she didn't get a hold of me when my dad came home, it was gonna be 10 times worse. Like, I was like, there was no way I was gonna escape it. But I remember one time, like, I was a little kid and I thought, I was like, all right, if you hit me, I'm gonna tell the police. And my mom literally looks at me and goes, "And when you do that, when I get out of jail, I'm gonna kill you." So she goes, call the cops, because when I get out of jail, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah, she probably was fucking bluffing, man. But I mean, dude, I have a cousin, Seth, who you met. He was also raised by the theory of you talk to a child. Not a fun kid to be around.
No. The sad thing is,
and not a great adult to be around.
Said child or adult, but that they are now, like, they could still have the same preferences, I guess would be the best way to put it, that they currently have, but like still be a better human if they just learned consequences. Like, I feel like that's a big thing. Like, you need to learn consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's a big problem is this current generation, there's no consequences, right? Because we don't want to scold our kids. We don't want to withhold things from our kids. And again, there are ways to do it without breaking out the spoon or death threats. Like, there are ways that you can. I remember when I was a kid, I was not a good kid because shockingly I did have ADHD. Did not get the test for it because my parents, didn't need the excuse that I had ADHD. But looking back and learning about that, that's probably why I was the way I was. But like, I can remember many a time where mom and the two sisters got to have dinner in the restaurant, and I had to sit in the car with dad because I was not behaving in the restaurant.
Really? What was your dad like? He doesn't get to eat in the restaurant either because of you. I'd be driving that car somewhere into the woods where no one could hear you scream. Right? No one could hear you cry. Like, I gotta miss out on the meatloaf from Boston Market because of you.
I gotta miss out on this rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, what was he like though? Was he like pissed off, or was he just?
It was my dad. He didn't really eat much food anyway. But like, you knew, like, that was you knew you were in trouble. You knew when you got home, you were going up to your room, because also it turns out when we were kids, going to your room was a punishment. There were no TVs, there were no game consoles. It was your room. You had a window. That's what you had in your room. So going to your room was a punishment. So. And grounding was a thing. Grounding was a thing. There was no, you can be grounded, but like, you can still have your cell phone, and it's okay if you go see your friends as long as you're no, you were grounded. That means you went to school and you came home, and that was it.
And all you had was books in your room.
Yeah, yeah. All my cousin, like, he was like, if he was bad, it was no Nintendo DS. Right, and it was just and again, I'm not saying the kid should have been like had the shit kicked out of him. What I'm saying is, like, because there was no consequences, he treated his elders like shit. Like, he never listened. If he was doing something wild, like, no one liked being around this kid, by the way. Literally no one. I mean, I mean, yeah, his own mother didn't really love being around him, and I think like that was just a lack of consequence because somebody else was like,
Well,
no, you don't hit
and the
him, you
sad
talk
thing,
to him, and
like the sad thing is, and I'm seeing this with a 17-month-old. We're not even talking 5, 6, 7, 8 year olds, right? We're talking
yeah, yeah,
a toddler. Kids are reactive, okay? So they don't know what's good and what's not good. So they're gonna do things and see how you react to it.
yeah. They're
And
gonna
if
push
you
the
don't
envelope too.
react negatively, they're
Yeah,
gonna do it again. So
yeah,
you have to kind of, and it's tough because like, so right now, like he's biting right now and he's hitting, and it's really hard because I don't want to yell at him for those, because right now he doesn't understand a reaction. He just understands like an exclamation and he thinks it's fun. So he does it again. So it's hard to not react. But in that same tone, like you get to a point where he's learned about these things. And so now you do have to react to him. Like when he touches a light switch that he's not supposed to, I have to tell him no. And like that's how kids are going to be their entire lives. Like
yeah, yeah.
they don't know any better, that they're a kid. They don't. They literally don't know any better. It is it goes back to, it is your job, as a, you do have to be a parent. I understand, like sometimes it's tough, but you have a child. You have to be a parent.
And
You
when he
can't
swings
expect
at
every,
you gotta teach him the art of counterpunching.
like you duck it and then you hit him with the uppercut, and you're just like, next time keep your hand up. Next time keep your hand up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, people are gonna listen to this and be like, "What the fuck's wrong with these guys, man?" No, I think I'll say, like our parents' generation. When I hear some of the stories of how my dad was punished, like my grandma's generation probably did go too far. Like my dad has stories about when
Yeah.
they used to get hit in the legs by a fucking a fly fishing pole.
Yeah, my dad got a paddle,
Yeah.
like a kayak paddle or a canoe paddle. My
My
grandmother
God,
held.
that's huge.
Yeah.
I
That's
just see an old
huge.
lady with a giant paddle like swinging it.
Yeah, it was my grandmother too, not my grandfather. It was my grandmother. We used to hit him with the
Well, that's my
fucking
great. You like
paddle.
a fly rod. My dad said they would like try to run up the stairs and she'd be whipping their like their back and their legs. Dude, you know how bad that would hurt. That's like that's you're getting hit by like a switch and like that. So they learn, and so it's fine. I guess we probably get weaker as we go on. So my dad's like, okay, I'm not going to hit my kids with a fly rod, but I'm going to probably like crack their ass with a wooden spoon. And by the way, it only happened a few times when I was like less than 5, because by the time I was 5, when they pointed at me or they basically told me to stop, like I knew they weren't bluffing. I knew.
They never
Yeah.
got to 3. My parents never got to 3 with the count.
Fuck
No.
no, dude. No, I'd be dead. Like that's what I thought would happen. So then our generation goes, okay, well, I got cracked with the spoon and I don't want to have to do that to my kid because it really hurt, right? Or I don't want to have to yell at my kid as much as my parents yell at me. So like each generation is going to get softer and softer and softer. And I think we've maybe reached the point where you're starting to see like some of the
Right. It's like
byproducts of being
right. And
softer on kids.
it's tough because like, again, everybody wants an excuse for everything. Everybody thinks they know everything about everything because they read one article on,
Wikipedia.
They saw the
Wikipedia.
headline. They didn't read
Yeah,
the
they
article.
read they didn't even read the article. They
Yes,
saw the
Elon said.
headline. And so it's like, where do you draw the line? And so now now we're at the point where like if you're not gentle parenting your child, it's not even, and again, yes, we can put most of the blame on the parents, but it's also the point where like it goes back to that social aspect where like if you're not gentle parenting your child, you're a bad parent. Like it's on you now. You're a horrible person because you were actually disciplining your child. So like you feel bad for disciplining a child where you feel like you should because society doesn't want you to. So like
Hmm.
it goes both ways. Like it's tough. I think you just have to stand firm in your beliefs
You
and
see these
expect that if you
articles.
don't discipline your child, they're going to be a shithead.
You see these articles, which I'm sure are probably greatly embellished, right? Because there's obviously an agenda there. But you see these articles now where parents can get there could be legal action taken against parents who don't validate certain ideas that their kids have, right? And it's
I
just
mean, we're
like,
talking about a generation where there is a movement of uh teenage-ish men, I think they're like 13, 14, that basically tried to sue their parents because they got circumcised against their will.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah, that's the
Nuts.
thing. That's the thing.
I don't
Turns
even
out
think
your
I knew
parent
what circumcision
turns
was until I
out
was like 18.
turns out your parents have your medical rights until you are either legally I forget what the actual word is, but basically removed from them, like you become removed from them, or you turn 18. That's the 2 times you begin to make your. Until then, if you're 18 years old, they get to say what happens to you. So too fucking bad if you didn't want to get circumcised, and neither they did. So
Well, in an
That's a
alternate
problem.
universe, when you're
That's a
having to
problem.
wait till you're 18 to get circumcised, I'm sure it's much worse in that alternate universe losing your foreskin at 18 than it is when you're like you have no consciousness.
Probably hurts way more.
Probably it's way more. Yeah, yeah. So count your blessings, kid. Be grateful. I think we said is one of the things when you get older you learn to be grateful. Yeah, I'm pretty grateful I lost my foreskin when
Uh,
I was like a few days
speaking
old.
speaking from seeing the fallout of that from a newborn, real grateful it happened when I don't remember it. Real grateful.
Yeah.
You got it. Do you keep it in a jar?
No, you
So
don't
they
get
ate it for
it.
dinner.
They don't give it to you. They're not
Pickled,
like, here's your child back and here's their foreskin. No,
here's
they
a,
don't do
here's a jar of pickled foreskin.
Ugh.
Keep it on your mantle. Do
You
you
can
remember
eat it
when
on his. You can eat it on his 21st birthday.
Wait,
remember the
wait.
pig heart
Jesus
freshman year? We tried to make a brine in a Powerade bottle and take the pig heart
Yes.
from the cadaver. What do you
Yes,
call it? Is it a
because you learned that if you can get a heart out while it's still pumping and put it in electrolytes, it'll continue to pump. So you thought that if you brought it back and stuck it in a Gatorade bottle, it would still pump. And I was like, Rich, that's
No,
not
we-
going to happen.
we were dissecting pigs and we were like, let's just keep this on our windowsill. And we got a bunch of salt from dude, you don't remember this? We got a bunch of salt
I
from
remember
like
it.
the cafeteria and put it in water. So we made like a brine solution and we had this like pig heart floating in a Gatorade bottle for
I remember
like,
it.
probably like a month.
Yeah, it was a long time. It was
I
disgusting.
don't remember that.
It was
Yeah, we were
disgusting.
Bio 101 or whatever we dissected
It was
pigs. Or 102.
oh my god, who was the teacher who you guys hated so much?
We didn't hate any teachers, but I think it was probably Dr. Clendenning.
Yes, that was her name. We didn't hate
All
her.
right.
You could,
Yo, I gotta
Yeah,
go
don't-
eat dinner. I'm fucking starving.
I gotta pee like a
All right,
motherfucker.
guys.
All right, now
All
I really
right.
gotta eat. Rich, you got this ending?
Yeah, so okay, I'll do two. So you do. So all right, thanks for listening, everybody. That is a episode from the hip on how to raise a child, generations, having everything getting softer, homeschooling, all sorts of stuff. So if you're if you're a parent, okay, this is not a good ending. All right, thanks, everybody.
This is terrible. Just cut it off. Just cut it off.
I'm so using that one.